Welcome back to Inside City Hall. As the legislative session in Albany quickly draws to a close, lawmakers and advocates are trying to push through several criminal justice reform measures, including a bill that would automatically seal and expunge some felony and misdemeanor convictions for New Yorkers upon their release from prison. And as gun violence rises, lawmakers are also considering legislation that would hold the gun industry legally accountable. Joining me now for more on this is Brooklyn State Senator Zellnor Myrie. He is the sponsor of two bills on these topics. Welcome, Senator. Good to see you.
Always good to be with you, Errol.
It has been a year since the murder of George Floyd triggered nationwide calls for criminal justice reform. It looks like the state Senate is still on the case. You passed some reforms in the last session. What is your clean slate bill all about?
Errol, there are 2.3 million New Yorkers that have conviction records that prevent them from getting housing, prevent them from getting financial aid for school, and prevent them from entering the job market. And what Clean Slate is about is giving people a second chance after they have served their time, after they have remained conviction and offense-free, to say you are not going to be defined by some of the worst moments of your life. I think this is an important step for a recovery for all New Yorkers. And if we are going to encourage folks to be participating in our economy and doing it safely and in a way that doesn't jeopardize public safety, I think this is the appropriate step for us to take.
Now, my understanding of it from reading the bill is that serious crimes would not be sealed or expunged, right? It's not like you could go and rob a bank or hurt somebody seriously or kill somebody or something and have that just go away. Is there going to be a list of specific offenses that would be exempt from being sealed and expunged, or would it be entire classes of offenses?
Right now, the bill covers a vast majority of misdemeanor and felony offenses. I think it's important for us to recognize that this doesn't kick in until someone has been convicted, sentenced, has served their time, and is no longer on parole or probation. But there are certain sensitive categories that would still require further access to these conviction records. Certainly, organizations that require fingerprinting would still have access to it. You think about teachers. If you want to apply to be a peace officer or police officer, they would have access to this. And we have excluded individuals who have to register on the sex offense registry, recognizing that there are some sensitivities there.
And on the other side of this argument, you often find the Association of District Attorneys. What are they saying about this bill?
We held a hearing a couple of weeks ago where we heard from this association and a number of law enforcement organizations. And they expressed some concerns about the bill and access and at what point they can have access. And we're taking all of that under advisement. I think the history of criminal justice reform in this Democratic majority has been a deliberative one. And we are willing to listen to all stakeholders. And my hope is that when this bill gets to the floor, that it will be in the best shape possible.
Okay. Not that long ago, I worked on an investigative project with journalism school students. And what they found was that improper sealing, meaning information was like leaking all over the place when it was supposed to be sealed, was causing huge problems for people who in some cases were, ended up facing deportation and all kinds of other problems based on events that were far in the past, and in some cases when they were juveniles. Does this deal with those kind of issues as well?
Well, I think we have been discussing, there are a number of other bills circulating in the state Senate that would create an office of expungement that would help look at these records constantly to ensure that there aren't improper sealings or expungements. But I think it's important for us to remember the purpose of this bill. And that is, as you have pointed out, there are instances that are long in people's past that plague them every single day today. And if you think about some of your worst moments, some of the worst things that you've ever done, and having to be reminded of that at every juncture of your life, that's not the type of experience we want New Yorkers to have. So I'm hoping that we can help rectify that.
Okay. Let me move on to the other bill that you have introduced, and that involves attempts to impose liability on gun manufacturers. Now, this is an issue that has some history that I'm sure you are aware of. Tell us why you're trying to implement some form of liability at this point.
Well, Errol, I don't have to tell you about the gun violence problem. This is something that is not new to communities like the ones that I represent. And this is an issue that has gone back to the early 2000s, where cities like New York sued the gun industry to hold them accountable for the unfettered illegal flow of guns into our neighborhoods. There was a federal law that was passed in 2005 that granted the gun industry wide and almost blanket immunity from these lawsuits, and they are unique in our corporate ecosystem in not being able to be held civilly liable. What this bill would do is take advantage of an exception in that federal statute that says if you violate a state law, then you can be held accountable. And here in New York, we should take pride in the fact that we are going to protect our citizens from threats from other states. And 75% of the guns used in crimes in neighborhoods like Brownsville and Crown Heights and East Flatbush don't come from Brooklyn. They come from Ohio and Virginia and other states in the South. And so I think it's important for us to have a mechanism to stop that and abate the illegal flow.
Okay, so if I understand this right, you're saying that they might be able to impose liability on some of these gun manufacturers pursuant to state law, and that would get around this federal attempt to preempt exactly the kind of lawsuits like Hamilton versus Colt, some of our local litigation that try to hold gun manufacturers accountable.
That's exactly right, Errol. Last month, the legislature declared, we were the first state in the nation to do so, declared gun violence a public health crisis. And really, this is a public nuisance that is being fed by activity from other states. We are saying we should be able to have our day in court. I want to, it's important for us to recognize this isn't about responsible members of the gun industry. There was an explosive report in the USA Today and Trace that was published yesterday that saw that the gun industry is essentially unregulated. And there are many bad actors who were making violation after violation after violation and not being held accountable. We should be able to hold them accountable for that, and I'm hoping that we can get this to the finish line.
Okay, well, we will be watching both of those bills. That second one sounds like it could be a real blockbuster and a game changer nationally, so congratulations in advance for moving the conversation in that direction. Senator Myrie, thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure, Errol.
Okay, let's take a break here. Coming up next, the leaders of the Orthodox Jewish community are largely coming out in favor of Andrew Yang's campaign for mayor. We're going to talk about this influential voting bloc in just a minute. Stay with us.